Welcome to the Legends Behind the Craft podcast, where we feature top leaders in the wine and craft beverage industry with your host, Drew Hendricks. Now, let's get started with the show.
Drew Thomas Hendricks here. I'm the host of the Legends Behind the Craft podcast. On this show, I talk with leaders in the wine and craft beverage industry. Today, we have a very special guest on the show, Janie Brooks Heuck. But before I formally introduce her, got to do the sponsor message. Today's episode, sponsored by Barrels Ahead. Barrels Ahead, we work with you to implement a one-of-a-kind marketing strategy, one that highlights your authenticity, tells your story, and connects you with your ideal customers. In short, we help wineries and craft beverage producers unlock their story to unleash their revenue. Go to barrelsahead.com today to learn more. Today, Bianca Harmon, our D2C strategist, is joining us today. How's it going, Bianca?
Been really good, Drew. Thanks. Really excited about this episode.
Yes, I am super excited. Today we are talking with Janie Brooks Heuck. Janie's the managing director of Brooks Winery in the Willamette Valley. How's it going, Janie?
It's going great. Thanks so much for having me on today. I'm excited to talk with you all.
Yes, welcome to the show. So Janie, give us a little background on how you got into the wine industry.
Well, I got into it through unfortunate circumstances, but it is one of the best stories, I think, in American wine, and it really highlights the passion and sense of community that we have in the Willamette. I got involved in the business 18 years ago. Our family's winery was started by my brother, Jimi Brooks, back in 1998. And he passed away unexpectedly in September of 2004. And I was approached by 12 winemakers in the Willamette Valley who said he was doing amazing things and really wanted to keep the winery going, at least for that first year.
Oh, wow. And then, so you were kind of thrown into the wine. Were you involved in the winery before?
No, not at all. I knew nothing about wine. I was a stay-at-home mom drinking, big buttery Chardonnays from California with all the other stay-at-home moms in the neighborhood. But I was really, struck by this group and their generosity to take our fruit that first year and make the wine, and just how much respect they had for my brother. And that was kind of my intro. And they asked if I would help on the business side, which I didn't have a choice. Our parents had passed away 4 years prior. He was no longer married to his wife. And so I was going to have to deal with his affairs anyway, and really just found this deep connection to him. And going back to Oregon, which is where we're from, to these lovely, amazing people in the wine industry. I had no idea that there were actually industries out there that were full of passionate people.
Yeah, that is one of the things I like most about the wine industry. It's that sense of community and camaraderie, and that's that kind of collective helping.
Yeah, there's a little bit of money in it in different pieces and parts and pockets, but for the most part, I'd say 95% of who you come into contact with, whether it's a wine buyer, a winemaker, anybody in the industry, they do it out of heart and passion.
Oh, for sure. So you weren't living in Oregon at the time?
No, California. And I still live in California.
Oh, you do? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, California is nice, but there's something about Oregon too. I'm down in California. I'm down in Carlsbad, California.
Oh, okay. I'm in Monterey. So.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Yeah.
And Bianca's up in St. Helena. So let's talk about Willamette. So, managing a winery from, a state away, and then what was it like being thrown into this situation?
It was a steep learning curve for sure. And it's funny now because on our 20-year anniversary, we interviewed a lot of the winemakers that helped us, and they were all asked the question, like, did you think Brooks would still be around today? And most of them look at and say, well, Janie was nice. We thought she was really nice, but we thought there was no way, that Brooks would still be here. Now we all chuckle about it together. But yeah, like I took a class immediately at UC Davis because I didn't even know what the terms viticulture and enology meant. Like I knew nothing. And, luckily we're surrounded by such supportive people that really helped guide me and continue to guide me. I still reach out to a lot of those people for help and support and advice.
Oh, yeah.
How incredible that you were able to be brought into a situation. And now here you are 20 years later, over 20 years later, and thriving.
That's pretty amazing. Next year, we'll celebrate our 25th anniversary as a winery and the 50th anniversary of our estate vineyard.
That's amazing. Now, over the last 20, 25 years, how have the wines evolved from the original iteration?
Our winemaker who took over, he was my brother's assistant at the time, has been our head winemaker since my brother passed. And a commitment that he and I made to each other early on was we need to really make sure that we stick to Jimi's style and philosophy and really what he created versus kind of turning this into our own brand. So we've preserved a lot of what Jimi's done. The label on our wines is a tattoo that he had, and it meant so much to him that he decided to use it as our label. The approach to winemaking hasn't changed. He used 2.5 ton fermenters as his smallest vessel during harvest to make 2,500 cases. We use 2.5 ton fermenters to make 20,000 cases. So really haven't compromised our approach and his philosophy. He was a big believer in blending too, and that's why we keep everything in such small lots, so that when we get to the point of putting something in bottle, we have so many different components to work with that we can get to balance and style without manipulating our wines. Accessibility and price point were important to him. So we really managed. We definitely over deliver for our price points, especially compared to a lot of producers in the Willamette who have higher price points. But we have grown substantially, and we needed to do that in order to maintain our price points and cover our overhead. But we really, at the heart and soul of the winery is really Jimi.
Yeah.
So how many would you say wine-wise, because I actually had the pleasure of being able to come visit this beautiful winery, would you say, have you added in a lot more vineyards since then, or are you guys still sticking with the same vineyards, or have you added in several, new varieties, like doing the Pinot Rosé and that sort of thing? Or
Yeah, the products have definitely evolved over time. He was emphatic about restoring the reputation of Riesling in Oregon. So it is still our primary white. And we will buy Riesling fruit from wherever we can get it in the Willamette Valley. It's less than 3% of what's planted across the entire state of Oregon, but it is definitely still our focus. Jimi was also making an Alsatian blend at the time in 99 that was Pinot Gris, Pinot Blanc, Riesling, Gewürztraminer, and Muscat. So we still work with all of those varietals. Definitely have expanded our vineyard sources. We do have our own estate vineyard, but then we work with 25 other vineyards.
Oh, wow.
And again, a lot of that is to go get this clone of Pinot Noir that's grown at this elevation and has, faces west and gets afternoon sun, versus a different clone, with a different aspect, a different vine age, different elevation, because all of those can, impact the style of fruit that you have in the cellar.
Oh, for sure. For sure. So Bianca just mentioned that she had just visited you. And I remember when she came back from the trip, she's like, we have them on our podcast coming up. And she was so excited. She is so excited. So Bianca, question for you. What was the tasting experience like at Brooks?
It was beautiful. It did happen to be one of the 115-degree days in Oregon, which wasn't normal. But we sat outside on the patio that overlooked this beautiful garden, and they had the prettiest chickens I've ever seen in my entire life too, that they let my kids go and feed, which was really nice. And you literally could see all the way out to, I think, is it Mount Hood from their deck, which was incredible. And you got to choose your flight, and they brought it all out on this beautiful trays, and we did 2 different ones and kind of shared it. And then we even had food, and we had this incredible hot dog that was there.
I wasn't expecting that.
It was the Mexican style corn. It was like that, but a hot dog.
Oh,
We also had a meat and cheese platter, and then the kids had popcorn, which I thought was really cute. It was very family friendly. The gentleman that waited on us was so nice. He even sent us a card after we visited and joined the wine club. And I just loved that they weren't trying to add to all these other different wines to their portfolio. They really kept it focused on what was growing well in the Willamette Valley region and stuck to what they were good at and what they knew, instead of trying to delve into things that aren't from that area.
Yeah, I got to stop by there. So yeah, we visited a lot of wineries, and it's rare that we come back and talk amongst each other with such enthusiasm. Janie, talk to me about your hospitality.
So we built the building that you were in, Bianca, in 2014, and I personally cannot stand the typical tasting room experience. I don't like the pressure of it. I don't like standing at the bar, tasting a couple wines, feeling like you need to join the club or buy something. So I was like, I wanted nothing to do with that in terms of managing. So instead we put in, basically it's a lounge. It's kind of got a shabby chic interior. It's super comfortable. It does have beautiful views. For me, people need to have choice. So our flights change monthly. We always offer 3 flights at a time. Our food menu changes monthly. We offer all sorts of events and experiences too, because my goal is I want to find something for everyone. And that goes back to us having beer and cider on tap. Like maybe you're not a wine drinker, but that shouldn't preclude you from having a nice
That's
afternoon.
awesome.
So come to Brooks and have your beer while your friends get their wine. And I just really wanted it to be a community gathering place. You know,
I did like you also had glasses of wine, because after we did our tasting, I got a glass of wine and he actually got a beer.
Yeah. Glasses, bottles, like it really should be about what's the best experience for you. And so I feel like, and we've always done tableside service, which is obviously that's a lot more overhead in terms of executing service. But to me, that's a much better way to have service than having to walk up to the bar every time you want to try a second wine. So we really, you know, I follow Napa a lot because they're 20 years ahead of us in terms of innovation and ideas.
Well, they might be 20 years behind as far as not allowing glasses of wine in the tasting room.
I was just going to say, there's a lot of wineries that will tell you, we are a winery. We don't sell beer and cider here. They're the first to tell you that when you have guests ask about it. So
yeah, well, and you know what? Life is too short in my mind. I just don't want to provide a half-ass experience. You know, my team, we have an annual meeting and my team asks, we all had to go around and say what we love about Brooks or what motivates us for our job. And I'm like, mine's to be the best, whether it's the best wine, the best team, the best service, the best experience. Like we need to keep improving all the time.
yeah, no, it was very beautiful. I've actually my girlfriend and her husband now and have gone and visited with their kids for her birthday a couple weeks ago.
Nice.
They live in Oregon. And so, you know, I am not a person that joins wine clubs because I live in St. Helena. I refuse to join wine clubs. And I joined your wine club and we're like super excited because we're getting our shipment in next week, I think.
Yeah. Well, and that too, it's like, I want to have the best wine club in America. Why can't you? So we try to add so many benefits that especially accommodate the people who are out of town.
Yeah.
Speaking of benefits, I'd like to touch on that point because I see now that you're offering points. And we haven't had a winery on that's doing that. So that's kind of from a marketing standpoint and everything. I kind of wanted to talk to you about how you came up with that, what made you go into that, et cetera.
You know, it definitely wasn't my idea. There are POS systems that have offered loyalty points for a long time, and our previous one did, and everybody really loved that benefit and that perk. We switched systems back in 2020, and so we kind of banked everybody's points, but nobody was able to earn them. And then our new POS system finally has them again. And, you know, some people look at it and think, well, why would you give away more? And it's like, well, why don't you thank people for their loyalty, right? Like it's all about loyalty anymore. Like, I don't want to be a one and done. It's like, it costs me 25 times to bring in a new customer than it does for me to keep a customer. And so we need to do as much as we can through the experience and benefits and offerings, you know, that keep people coming back and enjoying it. And, you know, our loyalty points aren't just for wine club members. They're for anybody who purchases wine at Brooks or anything at Brooks. It's not just wine.
What can they do with those points?
They can redeem them up to 50% of the value of anything they buy, whether it's online, and it can be merchandise, wine, food, gift cards. There's no product limitation in terms of what type of product they can use.
Oh, that's great. Because I know there's another winery. Well, I mean, we were at Domaine Serene a few years ago, and I know they have the urban tasting room. The urban rooms, I do see the point value because people are coming in back all the time. But a lot of the wineries, if you just show up once a year, I didn't really see how a point system would work. It's good to know that you're seeing a benefit in that.
Yeah, and if you just think about wine club members alone, they earn points on all their shipments, right? And that's 2 or 3 times a year.
Accrue them, and yeah, absolutely. Talk to me more about the benefits for people that don't live around the area, because a lot of the wine clubs, they're so geared for that, the visits.
Yeah, so one of the things that we did, and it really kind of started with COVID, but we partner with a domestic creamery somewhere in the United States that we believe kind of follows our same philosophy in their approach to cheese making as we do in wine making. And so with every shipment, 2 of the bottles in a club shipment are specifically for the wine and cheese tasting. And members can then choose to buy the cheese. And so, you know,
that's fun.
It's really fun. And we have a woman who's like a master of cheese that comes on too. And we learn a lot about the creamery. We all have a really fun afternoon together, eating cheese and drinking wine. Who does not love that?
Yeah.
We do happy hours with our wine club members on a regular basis too. And we'll bring in our winemaker, associate winemaker, or our chef, just so that they can get to know more people in the company. We do free shipping for the 6 and 12 bottle clubs. So
I
nobody,
love that. I wish more wineries would do that. It's so funny when you're, especially on the really high-end wines,
Yeah.
that they nickel and dime you with the $30 shipping.
right? It's yeah. I mean, and we're all used to free shipping, right? Amazon has changed the world in terms of
Yep.
expectations, and it's expensive to ship wine. So
Mhm. It is really, to the consumer, to you, to the person buying the wine, they're already spending, I don't know, hundreds of dollars on their 6 bottles. Then to ding them for 30 seems like,
right.
Oh, we did get some beautiful glasses and a corkscrew too.
Yes. When you join the club, you get a gift. If you refer somebody to join the club, you get a $50 gift. We include a special gift in every shipment. So you probably, well, you'll get your shipment.
Next week it says it was shipping. So
Yeah, so you're going to get a reusable shopping bag that's made out of recycled water bottles that has our logo on it. That's a little thank you gift.
Cool.
So we try to put surprise and delight in every box.
yeah. Oh, I love that. This is a good segue. Recycled water bottles. Your commitment to sustainability. I mean, you're a certified B Corp, which is amazing.
I was gonna
Congrats.
talk about that.
I really
Yeah.
want Barrels Ahead to become a certified B Corp. We're not quite there yet. I definitely respect that. Tell me how that process went.
It's great. And when you're ready, let me know, because I have a really good consultant that helped
Oh.
guide us through the process, because it's quite the process.
It
You
is.
know,
Every time I look at the process, I go, oh, I'm going to do that next year.
totally. I mean, we just went through the recertification in January, and it took 4 of us probably 80 hours a piece
Mm.
to get through just the recertification. But I wouldn't trade it for the world in terms of it making us a better business and a better company. You know, my brother really started the sustainability efforts at Brooks by being a biodynamic farmer. So we've kept that all the way through, but I really wanted to add kind of my own modernization, I guess, of
Sure.
sustainability. And I'm a huge believer in transparency. Like,
Mhm.
I hate nothing more than when someone talks about how sustainable they are and you ask them for examples and they can't quantify a thing. Like, so to me, getting certified is super important, because then everyone knows what the standards are that we're adhering to and meeting.
Mhm.
So we started that process. We got certified back in 2019. And as a small business, like, I didn't have an employee handbook, because honestly, like, HR stuff never rises to the top of my to-do list in terms of what brings me joy. But it forced me to have an employee handbook and to really evaluate my benefits and to look at the gap in my salaries between my highest paid and my lowest paid and my turnover ratio. And there's so much good that it does on the team side for the company. It also looks at your commitment to the environment, which for us was easy because we are already biodynamically farming and certified. It looks at your supply chain and, you know, how much are you sourcing local? What kind of code of conduct are you holding your suppliers to? So it's a really, really good, rigorous process. One of the things that I love about it too is there's 4,500 companies in the world that are certified. No more than 25 of those are wineries, and half of those wineries are in the Willamette Valley of Oregon. And I think that's just a huge statement about how much across the board the wine industry there tries to do the right thing.
That's amazing. I had no idea half of them were in Willamette Valley.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, I don't
trendsetter.
know a lot that are certified B Corps. Actually, I was just talking to my girlfriend who's taking over ownership of her family's restaurant in Louisiana. And she's like trying to do something different. And I said, she's like, and I really want to make sure this. And I said, you know, I've been hearing a lot about certified B Corp, and a lot of people have used that as a tool to making sure that they stick to what they believe in and what they want, because it makes you stay accountable for those
Yeah.
things.
Mhm.
And it's a really fun network to be a part of, both that and 1% for the Planet that we're members of, because you're surrounding yourself with like-minded business leaders too, right? And there's so much that you can learn from other people in your network. And like, we even like for purchasing, when we're purchasing supplies in our tasting room, we look at, first off, can we find a B Corp or 1% member or both that we would purchase from and support? So, you know, your dollars then are going to the right place as well, that there's some accountability and philosophy behind the businesses that you're supporting.
Absolutely. Talk about more of that. So you've got a whole section on your site on impact.
Yeah.
And it goes far beyond what we usually see on a winery site. Usually they'll have a commitment to one thing or another. But see, you've got a B Corp, you got Demeter.
Yeah, Demeter. Yeah, which
Demeter
is, some
and
people say
Ecology.
Demeter.
What is Demeter?
So it's the certifying agency for biodynamic farming.
Okay.
So it dictates, you know, what we can do in our vineyard. It's basically organics plus. some additional, what we call preparations of things that we either put in our compost pile on the vines or in the soil that really help just round out the nutrients in a very natural way. So you can't, spray pesticides and herbicides and all that kind of stuff when you're Demeter certified. We're also certified in the winery, which prevents us from making any additions or manipulations of the wine.
Oh, wow. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into biodynamic. And your brother had started that process from the start.
Yeah, he learned about it when he was in France, and he brought it to the Willamette Valley and led a group of other winemakers, many of which still practice biodynamics. They may not be certified. But again, like if someone wants to talk to me about biodynamics, I should be certified.
Sure.
Right? Like I feel like, yeah, we pay dues for that. But I also feel like if we're not supporting the certifying agencies, how is the consumer ever going to have transparency about what people are actually doing?
Absolutely. And there's a lot of times, like if you hear the word biodynamic, you tend to think of a little bit of the mythology and the horns, but there's so much that goes into it with the fermentations and the different ways to like reinvigorate the soil naturally.
Yeah.
How are you guys doing that?
Well, we have primarily through our compost pile, which is manure and straw, but then we also put a lot of those biodynamic preparations. So things like chamomile, we make a tea out of chamomile and put that on the compost pile. And if you think about what chamomile does for us, it does the same thing for a vine in terms of managing stress through better nutrition. So there's 7 examples of different plants that we make teas from that we use on our compost pile. Yeah. And then we have a couple, the cow horns and the manure is something that we have to apply to our soil every year. So we do that, as well as there's a preparation that uses silica. And if you think about silica, it's like a white, shiny material. If you put that on a grapevine, you're going to attract more sunlight, which is really beneficial for photosynthesis.
Oh, absolutely. Now, all this effort doesn't come inexpensively. Is it out? Do you see the benefits that far outweigh the effort and the cost?
Totally. I mean, and it is a lot of effort because I mentioned the B Corp certification side, but Demeter, my team probably spends at least 24 hours a year just with the inspectors when they come out to recertify us. But it's the right way to do it. It is.
And it all speaks to authenticity.
Yes.
Let's talk about your team for a moment, because there's a lot of work going on there. Talk to me about how does the operation run?
So we really have 2 main areas. One is hospitality and one is production. So our production team, a lot of longevity there. Chris, who's our head winemaker, was my brother's assistant. So he's been with the brand for over 20 years. His associate winemaker has been with us for over 9. So we have a lot of longevity in our team, which I love. So we have 4 people that work in production. And then on the hospitality side, we have our tasting room team, of course, and our wine club group, our director of wine club happiness, right? Everybody should be happy in the wine club. We have a director of marketing. So I'm a big believer in marketing. I think it's a place where the wine industry generally lacks unless they're a very large company. Nobody gets into wine thinking, I can't wait to sell and market wine. But that's more of like my background and where I came from. So, I think it's super important. Behind our team, we actually have a marketing consulting company that is the one that takes care of our website and all of our social media ads. So it's a big effort across a lot of avenues for sure.
Yeah, no, they're doing a great job. Let's talk about coming out of COVID. And we're still in COVID, but let's talk about now that the tasting rooms are open again and people are getting back to social. How has Brooks Wines changed? I don't want to say in the last year.
I mean, the biggest change for us is we went to reservations when COVID happened. And that's something that we will stick with because it's brought so much value in terms of planning for our team and like understanding who their customers are before they walk in every day and just managing the load. But because pre-COVID, we didn't have reservations and there would be days literally that we would have a line of people waiting to sit. Yeah. It's also brought back the people who have a lot more intention, like the people who live in Portland who used to drive all the way to the winery and then not be able to get in. Like they love that they can have a reservation and count on a place to actually be able to have an experience. During COVID too, we opened our lower area. I don't know if you saw it, Bianca, with all the picnic tables.
Yeah, I did actually.
And because that was outdoors, it was amazing during COVID. It like doubled our capacity. And we've seen a fall off of that business a little bit the last couple of years. So as we go into next spring, I think we're going to make that like our non-reservation walk in, come get a glass or a bottle. You're not going to be able to have all the services.
That's a great idea.
Maybe get a charcuterie board, but very limited food options, which I think will strike a good balance because there's just people who don't want to have reservations and want to be more.
And even sometimes with the older generation, they're still not used to like making the technology of all of these things, right? They're very like, I just walk into a winery. What do you mean I have to have a reservation?
Yeah. Yeah.
So being able to offer that to others will give you a nice balance because you can get some pretty great customers from walk-ins too.
Yeah. And we were able this year too to bring back our estate experience, which is something we were doing pre-COVID, but you put people in an RTV and take them out to the vineyard and they get to learn about the vines and then taste the wines from the different blocks in the vineyard. And, you know, with COVID, that put people too close together. So we started doing walking tours. So it was fun to bring the RTV back this year and be able to provide that experience again.
Oh, yeah, that's
You
always
do weddings too, right? Or events?
Very rarely, you know, and that goes back to our team having a good work-life balance. If we were doing a lot of nighttime events and weddings, it's my same team. So while you can make a ton of money off of weddings, we prefer the ones that like they come up from our garden and say, hey, we just got married on your grounds. We're like, sweet, have a glass of champagne. Like those are our kinds of weddings.
I love it.
Yeah, weddings, they do fit a lot of different wineries as far as for venues. With your commitment to wine and everything, it kind of makes sense that you focus on the wine. Now, talk about wine and specifically, not so much Brooks, but just the wine industry in general. And coming from a marketing background that you come from, what mistakes do you think most wineries are making that you see in other places? You don't have to name any wineries, but
and I would never. You know, I think in general as an industry, we don't put enough money behind marketing and selling our wines. And I think a lot of that goes back to what I mentioned before. Like if you got into the industry, it's because you want to be part of the craft. Like, right, you want to be making wine. And honestly, if you're going to spend $10,000, you'd rather buy a new tank than you would hire a marketing consultant or put that money into your website. You know, I think it's people don't understand the ROI of actually investing in marketing. And I know I'm preaching to the choir because you guys do exactly that.
It's kind of funny. You see the wineries with their like $1 million landscaping in front of the winery that doesn't even have to do with the vineyards, and they won't spend $10,000 on their website.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, I just think it's a lost opportunity in a lot of ways. You know, before COVID, before we launched our new website, like my whole thing was, I want to be the Dollar Shave Club of wine.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like I want that recurring business. I want, you know, to have that communication too with our customers. And I think that too, this was a good COVID lesson for me. So before we launched our new website, the company that came out that we're going to build it did their discovery. So they came out from New Zealand, spent 3 days on site, meeting with our team. And when she got ready to leave, she said, okay, here's our challenges. Like,
you can promote them. We love all marketing companies. If you want.
Oh yeah. No, Five Forests is the name of the company.
Five Forests is great. We work alongside them a lot on Commerce 7 sites.
Yes. And so, you know, Polly said to me, she said, you know, when you're in your building and with your team, there's a lot of emotion that is evoked in your space. So how do we translate that to a website and to communications? And I knew the communications meant that it's probably going to have to come from me. And, you know, and during COVID, in that first month, like how many emails did we get from wineries? And there was not one personalized thing in there. There was not one mention that this is weird. I hope you're okay. And I got so frustrated that that's when I started sending a weekly email every Sunday to my customer base. And I write it every single week. I think I've missed 2 weeks in the last 2.5 years.
Oh, that's awesome. That takes effort.
It takes about 3 hours a week, you know, if not more, but it's so meaningful, right? People want that personal connection. I want that personal connection. You know, I put my email and my phone number in every single one so that I'm accessible to our customers. It's been really, really valuable.
It's a human factor that is so important. And I think if you were asked me what I think the biggest mistake most wineries make is they don't even customize the default email responses for their POS system or their e-commerce system.
Yes, we just did that actually. I'm not going to, you know, we're totally starting to work on our customer journey piece. But yeah, I mean, and even now you have your talk automated emails and with that, we just changed, our director of marketing just went through and changed it and asked people, if you had a great time after the reservation, please give us a review. Like our Google reviews and Yelp reviews have gone insane because of that. And if you have any comments, here's the email for our managing director, please let her know. And sure enough, people will write me. Yeah, but I also tiptoe through the customer journey a little bit because
I was going to say, you got to be a little careful sometimes.
Yeah, so we've only done our transactional ones at this point. We don't have anything that we're generating because we're trying to be thoughtful about what that looks like.
Yeah, but even the transactional ones don't have to sound so transactional.
No, they don't. They could have pictures and they could have people and emails and, again, put some human connection behind the brand.
Yeah, I would think that you can really get a complex customer journey with personalization on the site, but a lot of that's overboard and it really, really requires a lot of commitment. But for me, like the minimum commitment is just instill your voice into these transactional emails because people do read them.
Yeah.
Especially if they just bought $1,000 worth of wine and they got the receipt, they're going to check the receipt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So definitely making things more human, and you guys are doing a great job. And another shout out to Polly at Five Forests. You guys are doing a fantastic job as well. Glad to see it. This site is looking fantastic, in my opinion.
Thank you. Yeah, they do a super job. And, again, it takes a lot of effort, right? We're changing our landing page, our homepage, like once every 2 months and mixing up the content. And, her and I probably looked at a good 100 websites about their sustainability page before we crafted the one that we did. And it was like, there's no specifics on anybody's.
I was just going to mention that. I was just on that page right now, and that was what I was hoping you would bring up. You're one of the first sites, only sites that I've seen that actually explains what you do as a B Corp and what you do for healing the planet. It's amazing.
It's important.
If we could get like 50 more winery clients like you, that'd be great.
Well, I just, there are some out there for sure, but I don't know, now we even have celebrities out there who are talking about how they make clean wines. And it's like, really? But you can't tell me your grape sources, and like, it's criminal.
Well, it was funny. I had a girlfriend actually who works out here in the wine industry, and she's like, the next time somebody asks me if the wine is vegan, I'm going to show them this picture. And it was the grapes had gone through like the destemming process, and there is a dried up like snake skin all throughout the stuff that during, like somehow it like gone in all of the vine stuff. And it was like, it wasn't an actual snake, but it's like, no, they're like, here, look at this. Like there's animals out in these vineyards all the time. Like the wine is not vegan. I'm sorry.
Well, and when people ask me, is our wine vegan? Well, in terms of us doing any kind of fining with, animal products, the answer is no, we don't. But are there earwigs that get onto our sorting table? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Maybe a yellow jacket here and there. So it all depends on what matters to you when you're asking if something's vegan.
Yeah, there's a lot of bees. Janie, so talk to me about karaoke.
Karaoke is a thing my team loves. We do it at different company parties. We do it once a year. We'll have a karaoke party because my team loves to sing. I mean, that's just a fun thing to do. We do bingo too. Like we do extended nights where we do bingo, and apparently our bingo gets really competitive. But who doesn't want to drink wine and play bingo?
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that on your About Us pages to talk about the karaoke song Rapper's Delight.
Oh, yeah. And what's weird about that? So, our director of marketing is amazing in terms of coming up with, questions that we all have to complete when she did our bios, which were really hard. But both our winemaker and I picked Rapper's Delight without knowing with the other. So I have this vision that like he and I are going to go like to some show person in Portland and like get a whole choreographed thing of Rapper's Delight and then like just spring it on the team. It's, company party.
Great. That would be great.
Oh, I was just going to say, speaking of your people, I meant to ask earlier because your brother, I guess your nephew is now basically the owner of it, right? And is he much involved nowadays now that he's not a child anymore? And
yeah, so Pascal was 8 when my brother passed away. And so he did inherit the entire winery. He has worked one harvest for us. He's working his fourth harvest right now over in Europe. He moved over to Europe with his partner in January of 19.
Okay.
So, and he's a gardener full-time for some American restaurateurs who have some property about an hour outside of Paris. And then he's gone and he worked one harvest where my brother worked for 6 years with the same family, which was amazing. And then has worked in Alsace the last 3 years. That is the extent of which he's close to wine.
Okay.
We don't know if he's coming back or when he will. There's days when it sounds like he's going to. And if he did, he'd be part of production and probably part of our vineyard team. Definitely the face of the company, but he's not going to be the managing director. That's just not his skill set.
Oh, I didn't think that. I honestly, I hadn't put it all together that I knew he had a son, but like, is he a part of it? Is he not? Or
he is also my confidant. He knows everything that's happening at Brooks.
Yeah, he's real world European experience.
Yeah,
he is. And why mess that up? Like, I wish I was 26 years old living in Paris too. Like, so he's never had any pressure to be involved we actually talk about ways of keeping that the least amount of pressure possible for him.
That's great.
That's great that he has such a support network for it and it's running so well. So Janie, as we're kind of getting towards the end of this podcast, and you mentioned it before, but I need to ask you, over the last 20 years, how have you stayed motivated to just keep this winery moving forward?
A lot of it goes back to people. I can't tell you how often I continue to hear stories or meet people that knew my brother and my family. So I had mentioned that our parents passed away 4 years prior. It's like my parents' friends come celebrate their 80th birthday at Brooks, so it's really kept me very connected to who I am and where I grew up and family and friends. Everybody knows where to find me now. I love the people in general that I've met. I mean, the people in this industry across the country that I've worked with now for 20 years are just really good people. It's so interesting. I was in a very competitive healthcare world before I got into this, and people didn't treat each other that way. And to have people that are so passionate about what they do and why they do it, kind of regardless of what they make from an income standpoint, is really refreshing. And I think an important priority in life that I've learned. I think my brother had that pretty well dialed in with the path that he took out of college versus the one that I did, which was like public accounting and getting the best job I could to make the most money. And I feel like this whole thing has been a little bit like, little sister lesson, like you need to figure out how to enjoy life. And that's really what the wine industry has given me. And I love the challenge. I love that challenge of trying to be the best. I mean, all the time I'm like, is any other winery doing that? Oh, then it's probably a good idea.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, that's incredibly motivating. And just finding all that passion and having the opportunity to excel in it. Amazing. That's what I love most about these podcasts, is just hearing all these stories and just hearing just all about the community. So Janie, where can people find out more about you and Brooks Winery?
So our website is www.brookswine.com. That's a great place to go. We also have a ton of stuff on our YouTube channel. Our chef does cooking videos once a month. And there's lots of people that helped us make that wine in the first year that tell stories about Jimmy and Pascal. And so we have a lot of content. We are not shy of content. Social media too. So we're Brooks Wine on Facebook, Brooks Winery on Instagram. We try to share as much as we can there to keep in touch with people, and subscribing to our weekly email. You get a letter from me.
Yes. Oh man. Handwritten. Well, not handwritten, but
not handwritten, but I will tell you that was always something that when I first started going out in the markets and selling wine and meeting with trade, I send a handwritten thank you note after every single person I meet with. And that was shocking in the industry, but it's one of the reasons that we do that at the winery too, when we get new wine club members or, people pay us a special visit. So I just thought human touch again is just super important.
Human touch. That's, man, you guys are exemplifying that.
Trying to.
Well,
That's
Janie,
the goal.
Janie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. It was great to meet you both.
Oh, thank you. And I can't wait to travel up to Wyoming again.
You're
Have a
welcome
good day.
anytime.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks for listening to the Legends Behind the Craft podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.